What's going on, guys? This is Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ, and I have a great guest today, my boy Matt Harmon from the Yahoo Sports. What's going on, my guy?
Hey, man, not too much. Just kind of enjoying these last few weeks of semi-freedom from the NFL calendar. You know how it is. It's like I always say at this point that I can see the wave in the distance, like it's just out there starting to approach shore, and soon enough it's going to wash all over us. And then, we are full underwater with the NFL until like February. So It's good, man. The camps are opening up. Things are happening. We've got Ben Roethlisberger walking in looking like a halfway decent in shape dad, which is pretty good for him. Listen, like respect, I get it. It's all good, man. So now things are exactly. Things are good. I'm happy to be on your show today. I'm happy to be talking some football. This is a good time, man. I appreciate you having me.
Of course, man. This is going to be an awesome show, man. I mean, I wore a nice shirt for you, man. I tried to get all nice and stuff, colorful shirt, loud shirt. I'm part of that little pack.
As we were talking before, I am very disappointed that I just have like a plain blue shirt on, moderately fun shorts, but not gonna entertain the whole audience with the full body shot. But nice little colorful hat here. If you're gonna wear like the boring. If you're going to wear the boring shirt, you got to have the loud hat. If you're going to wear the fun shirt, you got to have the boring color hat. There is a science to all of these things, as you know. I don't have to tell you that.
Yeah, the bottoms definitely don't match. The shirt is nice, though. I wasn't going to give them a body shot, but, I do have shirts like this that match with the shorts. Like, that's the combo I like. It's not the romper, but they match.
Yeah. I have not gotten that far down the rabbit hole yet, mostly out of just fear and self-consciousness, but maybe like next summer. Maybe next summer they'll be
in again. Maybe.
No, they're in. Let me tell you, they're in. They're in. You can do it. I just have not done it. I think you probably would pull it off better than I would.
Maybe we'll see. I haven't tried it. I like to walk the boardwalk. I like to look good, with the seltzers at the beach and stuff. But
there we go.
Are you a seltzer guy? What you drinking on with seltzers?
I can do it. It's not my favorite thing. It has to be like, so much of, to quote my guy, Ryan Fitzpatrick, when we did an interview together not long ago, actually, well, I guess it was pretty long ago. It was like back to the Super Bowl. I asked him, the appropriate length, for like how many buttons down is appropriate at certain functions. And as he said, and I think this applies for, drinks too, it's seasonal and regional. So like situation matters for me when it comes to, am I going to be drinking the seltzers or anything like that? Because then it's got to be like, I got to be outside either here in California, summer's back on the East Coast with the family. I can do it, but not usually like my go-to. I'm trying to rebrand right now as a margarita guy though. Like summer is marg time. I'm still looking for, if you have any good recommendations, any of the people out there have good recommendations. I'm still looking for like a good canned margarita. I haven't quite found it yet, but like a good fresh made one from a bar, from the house. That's my usual summer go-to.
I'm definitely on that wave too, man. I'm trying to drink a little bit less beer. I'm a Blue Moon guy. I mean, you can't see it, but I got like a tower right here, Blue Moon.
All of us have to try to like limit the beer intake, but because the nice little. You tell me, buddy. You telling me?
Hey, man, let's get into some fantasy talk, man. This is going to be a good topic. We got some, training camp fantasy stories that, we have a close eye on. I mean, the obvious, I'm a huge Rams fan. We lost Cam Akers. I mean, a lot of fantasy owners out there are just going into a frenzy. So I would love to get your insight on some of these storylines of like, what do we do? Cam Akers for the future. Cam Akers is not going to be this season. So what are we going to do with Darrell Henderson and stuff?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Akers, I was really willing to be aggressive on because I think the situation there is so good. Last year, top 5 in rushing success rate were the LA Rams. Like basically anytime somebody was out there, you wanted to have a piece of that backfield. And I think that was the equation coming into it. And I think the just overwhelming, not just from a vocal standpoint, but from an action standpoint, the love that this coaching staff and Sean McVay had for Cam Akers, they were giving him like 75% of the backfield work last year. Like those were like Gurley didn't even hit those numbers back in the day. Like I think they were really willing to turn the reins over to Cam Akers. But like you said, now it's really just for the future. It's tough. We don't have this is just not a long list of guys that have come back from this particular injury at the running back position and come back close to full strength. We actually, and the thing is, we still don't even know like what the best of Cam Akers could look like. So it's a brutal loss. And like, I think just, it's always, all we want in these summer months is to avoid like the disaster headlines, like guys getting into trouble off the field, like bad stories, like the Richard Sherman one not long ago. Like you never want to see that. That sucks. And injuries, like to see a guy going into his second year ready to crush it. And then this happens. It's a bummer. It just is like it's a bummer. This is like all we want is not to have this stuff happening. We don't want that to happen for the players. But spinning it forward this year for Darrell Henderson, like I think that he immediately, for me, as soon as this injury happened, like let's not act, like let's not act like Darrell Henderson is one of these like goofball backup running backs that we've just like never heard of, like
exactly.
He had his time last year. He had his moment in the sun to the point where like he was PFF's number one graded running back for a while. He was number one or close to the top of the leaderboard in next gen stats, rushing yards over expectations, which just all of this goes to show you when he was in there, he was productive. He was good. We have a history of Darrell Henderson playing pretty well in this offense. So he's not one of these guys that, like a Mike Boone or something, some random running back that gets thrust into the starting lineup and we all try to cram him into our DFS lineups, cram him into our redraft lineups. Like I think this is a different type of situation. So immediately to me, he jumped right into that like running back 20 range. I think he jumps guys like Mike Davis, Myles Gaskin, Kareem Hunt, this group of guys. And I'm sure you felt the same way doing early best ball drafts. Like those guys are on the board and just like, no, no thanks. I think he immediately jumps those guys. And then it's kind of weighing him. And I'm interested to hear what you would say about this. Like, cause I've kind of gone back and forth. Then in that like running back 17 to 19 range or 20 range, you've got the guys like Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins. I think Henderson now is in a very similar kind of group with those guys with, I think, actually a much more realistic path to a top 10 finish than any of those guys. So I actually ended up jumping him up to running back 17 ahead of some of those players. Him and J.K. Dobbins are kind of tough, but I just think with the offensive ecosystem that the Rams have, the proven, above average ability that Henderson brings to the table, and the potential that he just owns that backfield. I mean, there is a chance, and this is like talk about training camp storyline to watch. We have to watch like how do they treat Darrell Henderson in training camp? I think that he really does have a path to a top 10 finish, whereas I'm not sure that a guy like DeAndre Swift or certainly Miles Sanders has that in their range of outcomes.
Exactly. I agree 100%. I mean, just based off of what Sean McVay done with that, entire offense for the past couple of years, we've seen the running back like succeed in that system. So I definitely think he definitely jumps on the board, like in the back end of that top 20. He definitely has, the ceiling of a top 10. If they end up going through camp and they're being very aggressive with him, getting him like 15 to 20 touches, that will be simply amazing. I definitely think, we have our questions if he can handle the full workload for a full entire season. So if they don't bring anybody in, I really feel like, why not full send, Darrell Henderson top 10?
Yeah.
I really feel like if they don't bring in an AP or Le'Veon Bell or any of those guys out there, or like even if they do bring in like a Deion Lewis or a Duke Johnson for like a change, then whatever. I think it's still Hendo's season. So I definitely think, if they're very aggressive, if they're believing in him that he could be the guy, I don't see why not. It's not to the stars and moons with Henderson.
Yeah, for real. And I mean, who are they going to bring in at this point that would really move the needle that much? Like, I don't think that. Yeah, exactly. They don't have a ton of wiggle room because they're always kind of up against it from a salary cap perspective. I don't think, just to me, maybe I'm wrong on this. I don't see Sean McVay as like the type of coach that is going to go out and sign an Adrian Peterson like a couple of weeks before week one and make him, like the damn Lions did last year, like make him like a featured piece of the offense, or how Washington did it a couple of years ago. I don't see Sean McVay being that type of coach. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I think he probably wants to trust his system, which is a good system to trust in. Like I said, top 5 last year in rushing success rate. They always pump out really quality players at that position just based on the ecosystem of that offense. So yeah, I'm right now thinking that it's going to be mostly Henderson the entire season, and guys like Funk or Xavier Jones will maybe round things out, or they bring in a sort of like a Duke Johnson's an interesting one to bring up as like a veteran change of pace.
Yeah, I definitely think, he has that belief in his system where he could look in-house. So like the Xavier Jones or, the Jake Funk. I mean, I believe in those guys to be serviceable as well in that backup role, just how good the system is. Like the running game's going to be excellent. So maybe they don't go out and sign a guy, and that'll probably be the best thing for Henderson owners. So, but moving on to another story, like a storyline that we need to pay close attention to is Javonte Williams versus Melvin Gordon. Like, what are your thoughts on that running back situation going into the season?
I know speaking of Mike Boone, we just talked about him earlier. He's on this depth chart as well. I think that there's some like rumblings that Melvin Gordon would be a cut candidate, but most of the people connected to the Broncos don't seem to buy into that and seem to think that like he is going to be the starter coming in there. So I think Gordon is going to be around, but I think that Williams could be just too good to deny. I think he could really usurp this role from Melvin Gordon. I was kind of willing to rank them sort of similarly early on in the offseason, but the more I think about it, the fact they traded up for Williams, the fact that Gordon has, gotten a DUI since he's been there. He had fumbling issues last year, certainly not like endeared himself to the organization. Maybe that is why they go ahead and they trade up over the Dolphins, who are clearly going to take Javonte Williams to make sure that they got their guy. So it's just tough too, like projecting. I think when you're talking about any Broncos player, you have to think who's going to be the quarterback. Is it going to be Drew Lock? Is it going to be Teddy Bridgewater? I would think it's probably going to be Teddy Bridgewater for most of the season, but everything sort of trickles down from there because like right now, all of these Broncos players, not just the running backs, but even like Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are top 40 receivers in ADP. You've got Noah Fant as a top 10 tight end in ADP. You got Williams as like sort of in that range of guys that we were talking about earlier, the Mike Davises, the Kareem Hunts, and he certainly has the most like theoretical upside of those guys, but somebody here is not going to hit. If it's just going to be Teddy Bridgewater, if it's just going to be Drew Lock all year, if they're not making the magical Aaron Rodgers trade, which by the way, I don't think is going to happen.
No,
that's not happening.
No, stop.
Somebody here is not going to hit. Like, I don't think that this offense can support 2 top 40 receivers, a top 10 tight end, even if all of these guys are ballers. And I think they're all good players. It all starts for me at the quarterback situation and trickles down. The reason that I think Williams is really appealing, no matter what, is this is going to be a great defense. They eschew drafting a Justin Fields in favor of just continuing to beef up a secondary that they already really beefed up in the offseason. I think this is going to be a top 5 defense in the NFL that's going to create really good game scripts for Williams to continue to be involved. And I think he will probably be the early down ball carrier over Melvin Gordon. But this is a situation to watch in camp if Williams can really just run right past Gordon.
Yeah. I mean, what really worries me about Williams, like his ADP right now, it's like really creeping up. Like it's early.
It's aggressive. Yeah.
So like it's really creeping up to me in redraft where I don't feel comfortable based on just what I like feel like with the Broncos. Like I haven't been really excited about a Broncos running back in the last couple of years for a while now. And then they haven't had a quarterback that's worth, getting excited about since Peyton Manning. So it's like, it goes back to your point. Like if it's Locke, if it's Teddy, like I just don't know if they're going to be able to, really figure out who's going to be that guy. But I feel like, Williams comes in with the talent, but I just don't think immediately he's going to get that bang for your buck for that 5th round investment or that 6th round investment. You might see week 6, that's when he really takes off. But I'm on board with being patient with rookies, but that investment on draft day is what really bothers me about Williams. So that it's a little too expensive that Melvin Gordon's going to be just as much involved. Then you got a guy like Mike Boone there who's going to be doing who knows what. So like, training camp, we got to keep an eye on that.
If Melvin Gordon was to get cut, and again, I don't think he is, but there are some people that like those, like I said, those whispers are out there. I mean, then we're talking about like, Williams bombs away. Let's do this thing. He would end up being like a 3rd, maybe even 2nd round pick.
Exactly.
Just based on if Gordon was not there, but Gordon is there. And here's the way I think about this stuff too. And I'm sure you've had the same experience. You know how people like get all excited about the rookies, and then when they start crushing it at the end of the year, you'll have the victory lap folks out there like, I told you to draft Javonte Williams.
It only took 10 weeks.
It only took 10 weeks. And you know what? The thing is too, like, because the fantasy drafts, it's the most fun part of playing fantasy,
yes.
but it's also not the end, right? Like the league doesn't end at the draft. So I think about guys like Nick Chubb, for example, guys like Aaron Jones, another example. Like, they're elite studs now, but they didn't come in from day one of their rookie seasons, or even for Aaron Jones, his second season, and were immediately that guy. Aaron Jones had Jamal Williams he had to finally surpass him. I think they even had a veteran at one point that was there. They had in Cleveland when Nick Chubb was a rookie, they had Carlos Hyde there, and then eventually they bounced Carlos Hyde or whatever. But it's like, just because you don't draft Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, even David Johnson, the one year he got really rolling as a rookie at the end of the year. Even if you don't draft those guys, even if you don't draft Javonte Williams, he can still be on your roster by the time you're winning the damn championship, because you took a stud, rock solid wide receiver in that range. And then when whoever drafted Javonte Williams got sick of that, experience dealing with Melvin Gordon there, maybe you trade for him later. Maybe the other person gets straight up fed up with him and drops him. I mean, David Johnson was a guy that was going in like the 8th to 10th round his rookie year and got dropped in a lot of spots because he was doing nothing until, week whatever at the very end of the season. So this could be another situation like that. So, you can tell us so at the end, but we all might be able to benefit if we just have a little patience.
Just patience. That's all I ask for. It's because, like, as soon as you hear that news that he's going to be leading in rushes, he's going to be the lead back by week 1, that just skyrocket these guys' ADP, because I was comfortable taking him in the 8th round. That was like a given. Like, I was like, okay, 8th round, sure. He may pop off later in the season, but now I'm like seeing people take him as the RB2. It's like, that's a little uncomfortable and uneasy for me being for a guy. We don't even know week 1 is going to start. So that's definitely something that I definitely want to keep my eye on, and hopefully we can really get some clarity before week 1. But the next, camp, basically storyline I want to share with you is the Jets. Like, is there a skill player worth rostering? Because we always know that, Jay Crowder was the only guy that you can own on the Jets for fantasy. So now going into the season, basically all brand new, is there a guy worth rostering that we can get week to week, fantasy points from?
There's, like, to me, the quietest bit of enthusiasm I think about this Jets offense right now. And maybe it's just the next new thing that's not going to work. I mean, how many iterations of that have there been in New York? There's been plenty, right? But I think this time with, a proven Shanahan type of system coming over with Robert Saleh as the head coach, with another LaFleur brother, Matt LaFleur, Mike LaFleur this time.
I did not know the offense, by the way.
Now we know. I mean, hey, all these guys got brothers. All these guys got brothers, and they all end up getting each other jobs. That's how the NFL works. We know that. But we think they're bringing in like a proven offensive system that has basically taken over the league at this point. And, everybody that runs this system, for the most part, sees a boost in efficiency. So, we'll see how long that lasts. Maybe that bubble bursts eventually, but maybe the Jets are just the next one to catch that wave. I don't know. I think it could be that type of situation. And I think the most interesting thing too is that I think over the last couple of years, they've really beefed up that wide receiver room. I mean, like you said, usually it was just Jamison Crowder and nobody else. We're talking about these guys, like, just nothing there. But I think Denzel Mims is a player I still have my eye on. He's definitely someone to watch in training camp because, in OTAs and mini camps, he was like running with the second team. Maybe he's not really a fit with this offense, but let's track how he progresses in terms of whether he's running with the 2s or the 1s or whatever. But they also bring in Corey Davis, who I think is the favorite to lead the team in targets this year. I think he would be, I think you probably would rank him ahead of everybody else on the Jets right now, just because he's the veteran guy there. Keelan Cole also doesn't stink. Like, Keelan Cole is he's not going to ever win you your fantasy league or anything like that, but he's a solid number 4, number 3 receiver. And that's again, a lot better than what the Jets have been working with of late. But my guy there is Elijah Moore, the rookie that they drafted this year out of the 2nd round. Reception perception superstar. People can go on his reception perception profile at receptionperception.com. Check out Elijah Moore. This guy, to me, as a route runner, as a separator, up at like the 95th percentile in my success rate versus man coverage metric. He is a player, I think, that reminds me a lot of like a Doug Baldwin or a Tyler Lockett type of guy that you line up at flanker, you line up inside, but isn't like the Cole Beasley, bunny hop, slot, Jamison Crowder, like that type of slot receiver. Yeah. He wins down the field vertical. I think he's going to be their number one guy before too long, and maybe it even starts right away. I mean, he's basically just been blowing away everybody at camp in terms of mini camps and stuff like that. Yeah. Let's see if that carries over into training camp. We also need to track like how Zach Wilson is doing. Yep.
Exactly. Because that's the guy that I got my eye on. I really need to see like his progression if he's like really performing at a high level and an NFL level. Because I really think I really think he can though.
I agree with you. And the thing here is like they have no like he's clearly starting week one. Like they're not even making any like bones about it. And they have no other option on the roster. Yeah. Like they have no NFL experience on the roster. It's Zach Wilson and then a bunch of guys who've never done they're not like they have no pedigree. You know, they don't even have like a Sam Darnold there anymore who isn't good but was drafted early. Like they have no NFL veteran presence there. So it's clearly going to be the Zach Wilson show. So we need to see how he does in camp for sure.
Hell yeah. I mean, he's definitely a guy I got my eye on. And I was hoping that Denzel Mims, didn't get a bad rep, in mini camp. But like you said, maybe we just need to monitor if he's working with the ones or twos and be hopeful for him because he's a guy I had my eye on last season. The little flashes we saw from him, I really like that. He's not a guy that runs into coverage. Like he plays it very well. He's a guy that can get open and get the ball in his hands and make plays. So I'm really rooting for him this year. So I really hope him and Zach Wilson, they connect on some type of chemistry. And not saying he needs to be the one. I just want him involved, to be some type of fantasy relevant because he's definitely a guy.
Yeah. I think they fit in roles really well. Like Mims would be an ideal X receiver. Corey Davis is like the consummate number 2. Yeah. And Elijah Moore is that guy that plays at every spot and wins at every level of the field.
Yeah, because Corey Davis, we've seen him be the wide receiver one. He didn't pan out. So when he took that basically supporting cast, next to AJ Brown and then them run the ball with Henry, I really feel like that's where Davis was able to succeed. So maybe he plays that role in the Jets and kind of stick with that role, but I wouldn't want to see him as like the number 1 target. You know what I mean?
I agree. I think he is like a really good number 2 receiver and they just need someone else to emerge as a stud starter next to him. And I think Moore is going to be that guy.
Gotta be. But man, it's the middle of July. Bro, we still don't know who the Saints starting quarterback is. Like, what's going on?
I love that you just jumped right in, because we have no idea. And also, by the way, they have 5 primetime games. And also, we don't know who the starter is. And even if it's Jameis Winston, I mean, Jameis Winston could make a pretty fun offense for fantasy because he's going to throw them turnovers and he's going to air it out, right? But that's not necessarily the best football to watch, he could be great for fantasy, but it's not gonna be fun to watch. The Taysom Hill thing is very weird. We have that is quite the experiment still. Even if we find out who the starter is, the starter still might not be good. And I think there's a chance that Winston could start games and Hill could start games. This splits up half the year. That could be what we're looking at here. And it's just crazy to me that they have 5 primetime games. I don't know if anybody else cares about that. It's one of those things every time I talk about it on a show, I don't know if anyone else out there cares about it. But let me tell you what, as somebody that covers the league, this is my job. I watch every single game. I watch every single primetime game. When there's one team every year, usually it's the Bears. Maybe Justin Fields is going to save us from this year. I'm really hoping so. As a longtime Allen Robinson guy, that Justin Fields is just everything he's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
Usually it's the Bears as that one primetime team that just every time they're on their schedule, oh my God, we got more Bears. Why more Bears? But we could have the Saints could be that team. I think they're probably too good to be that team. But if Winston really is not it, and Taysom Hill doesn't really turn into what Sean Payton believes he is, this could be a rough watch of a team. But I think exactly they might have some flex games. But at the same time, I do think from a pure fantasy angle, I really like where Michael Thomas is going. I really like where Alvin Kamara is going, just because these two guys are elite players at their position. I know Michael Thomas gets the slant boy moniker thrown at him, which, by the way, is objectively hilarious because you know how it is, man. Like growing up in schools and stuff, like when somebody really rips on you, like and gives you like a mean nickname, but like you let them know that it bothers you, they've won. And I think the fact that the slant boy thing bothers Michael Thomas so much is like, wow, it's game over. But I don't think it's a real representation of his game. I think if you look at his reception perception results, our Twitter handle tweeted out a couple weeks ago, he wins at every level. And I think actually like Jameis Winston could, as a guy who's going to air it out, could really show that, Michael Thomas can run those deep routes as well. He was just playing with Drew Brees the last couple of years, and Brees' arm strength had sort of deteriorated to this point. I like where Michael Thomas is going right now. I think he could have sort of a bounce back season. As long as Thomas and Kamara are still at the top of their games, it's gonna be tough for this offense to just outright stink. But man, it is really risky to go from like even as Brees was declining, just rock steady like production every single year, to now you're at the point where you're looking at the total quarterback wilderness of like a veteran reclamation project and a total unknown in Taysom Hill.
It's going to be a wild season, man. I mean, if we see a quarterback by committee, I'm going to literally rip my hair out the little I have left. It's just like, what are we doing, man? I really feel like, Winston has the arm strength. You're not going to let that go to waste. I think Sean Payton's a good enough coach to not be as aggressive with Winston as Bruce Arians was, because really all those interceptions, I wasn't blaming Winston because Bruce Arians wanted him to go out there and air the ball out, and it was working. He threw for 5K. So now I feel like Sean Payton could play into his strengths and then maybe keep Hill on the bench. Maybe he brings him in for some red zone trickery, but I don't know, man. It's just weird that it's the middle of July and we still don't have an idea of like what's going on. Like drafts are coming up, man. I want to know.
Yeah, we haven't had like a true quarterback competition in a while, like a real even like this guy or this guy. I guess last year it was sort of Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles, but like who cares? Like who really cared about that? Nobody. I think for the Saints, they have a true quarterback competition, like reps in camp. Preseason snaps are going to go into the equation. I think even we just talked about the Broncos, like they're the same way. Like I think it's 50-50 between Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. Like, we have a couple of those situations this year.
Hey, where it's transition to my next one though, Mac Jones versus Cam Newton.
I think that's another one. Yeah. I think that's another one. And like, the only reason that I think those two are different is because there's not like one, usually when there's a first round rookie, it's like, it's only a matter of time, right? Same thing with a guy like, we're talking about Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. At some point, it's going to be the Trey Lance show. Justin Fields at some point is going to take that job. And I think with Mac Jones, there's the same inevitability there. And I love Cam Newton. I wish like there's a piece of my heart that like wishes that Cam could have this like bounce back season. I just wonder if his arm is shot though, after all the shoulder surgeries. Yeah. And it sucks, right? Because Cam is super fun. And also it seems like Bill Belichick loves Cam Newton,
he really loves his game. Like he's a big fan of Cam Newton. So I really feel like you said, I think his arm is shot and I think it's hard for him to accept it. I just don't know. It just sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. And I think that, Mac Jones at some point could take over and then they can just run this like very timing based offense that they clearly want to run. And I think that also changes the equation for like every player involved. I think then you're looking at, even if Mac Jones isn't necessarily he's not going to be like Tom Brady or anything like running that same precision offense, but changing to that style as opposed to the style that they ran with Cam Newton last year and probably would run again this year, albeit with just better players around him. You're looking at probably more pass attempts. You're looking at probably fewer rush attempts. That's going to change your projections for guys like Damian Harris, who would probably get more goal line work when Mac Jones is in there. You're looking at guys like the tight ends would suddenly become more interesting. And Jacoby Myers, I'm so glad you brought up Jacoby Myers. I think he could be a guy. I think he could be a guy that you take late in drafts and ends up outproducing some of the other players in that passing game. Like he is a timing rhythm route runner. Mac Jones is a timing rhythm quarterback. I think we could really look at him as a guy that would benefit from that change.
I'm really big on Myers, man. I mean, I absolutely like he had 7 out of 11 the games that he played and started, he had double-digit points, and that's with 0 touchdowns. So that's like, come on, man. You give a guy like Mac Jones that's going to be able to execute some of those plays in the red zone, he can easily, be a top 25, top 20, wide receiver if that offense is hitting on all cylinders. I definitely think, Mac Jones would be the better start, but we're probably going to have to be patient and wait, let Cam Newton get his reps in and just kind of fill it out throughout the weeks.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a storyline to watch because I think there's a chance that Mac could take the job from Cam in camp. I think there's also a chance that Cam could start deep into the season, if he just plays steady. I think Cam will have to lose the job. Like, I think that's how much Belichick wants this thing. Yeah. I think that's how much Belichick wants this thing to work out with Cam, that he will try to like give Cam every edge. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, let me tell you what, Jakobi Meyers, really interesting. He is a guy that, part of our Reception Perception subscription is we offer a Discord channel as well where people can jump in there. And like one of the channels is like a, right now is kind of like the main guy, the main guys are on the site, like the main players. There's like over 60 guys on there. There's a channel for people to suggest and then vote via polls on who gets next. People are hammering like, let's get Jakobi Meyers up on the site. So he's a guy that's going to be on Reception Perception very, very soon.
Definitely got to tune into that. So my last storyline that we need to really like get some clarity of, I mean, we're getting like the latest news, but it's the Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert thing, man. I mean, Zach Ertz, he's possibly staying in Philly. I mean, there's not really like a huge market out there for anybody that wants to trade for him. He's 30 now, like he's aging. The extension is probably out of the window. Dallas Goedert ADP is like in the 6th, 5th round, which is way too high. So it's like, what's going on with over there in Philly?
Yeah, I think we really need like Zach Ertz to hit the road for this Dallas Goedert thing to happen.
Buffalo.
I thought it. I'm out on that. Get him away from Buffalo. Like we don't need him taking any targets from Stephon Diggs or
that is true. That is true.
Or Manny Sanders. Like they're a wide receiver offense, but I think the one spot he should end up at is Indy. I mean, it's natural. Like,
oh yeah, of course, the
old coach reunion with Wentz.
They seem to be.
They seem to be tight. Like get those guys back together there. Indy's always got plenty of cap room. They don't really have. I mean, they have like Mo Alley Cox and some of these other interesting guys at the tight end room. Maybe they just are good with the young guys that they have there. They want to try to get Mo Alley Cox. Shout out to what is the VCU? Shout out to Virginia VCU. Commonwealth University. Always got to shout out my Virginia schools when he was a basketball player there. We know basketball players playing tight end, but anyways, like maybe they're just comfortable with the tight end room that they have there. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I agree with you. Like we need Zach Ertz to move on for Dallas Goedert to really hit that ADP. I tell you what, man, we talked about like, I just don't know that I don't have a lot of confidence in how this Eagles offense is going to go. Like I love
the question mark over it. It's like a faded question mark. It's like, I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know yet because we just don't know exactly how good that offense is going to be. I really think, the volume's there for Smith, the volume's there for Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, but I just don't know how good it's going to be. How are we going to see that translate into this new head coach coming in with, these tools and these players, these skilled players. So I'm like really pumping the brakes on Dallas Goedert. I was for it when the rumors were that Ertz was out, but now that Ertz is possibly staying, I'm kind of out on that ADP, man. I can look elsewhere and just wait.
Agree. It's very aggressive. So it's definitely a situation to watch. Otherwise, he's going to just slide into that zone of tight ends that you just really don't want to be drafting from.
Yeah.
The post stud before like the late round guys. I don't know. Typically, that's not where I like to draft tight ends. And if I am drafting one this year, I really like Tyler Higbee.
Oh my God, man, this is where we got to go. Like, oh my God, I'm not a Higbee fan because one, I just don't think the numbers and volumes there. But as of yesterday, the last couple of days, Akers is hurt, so maybe they go more aggressively. The volumes there for Higbee for week to week. But
Gerald Everett.
Nowhere Everett. Yeah, I know. But I've been killing the Higbee hype for the last 2 years, man. Those 5 games he had was amazing, but Brandon Cooks was hurt. Josh Reynolds was very underdeveloped.
For sure.
Everett was hurt as well. And, who else is there for him to, really throw to? But Higbee season may be a thing this year.
Maybe. At least he's not going too high. Yeah.
Yeah, last year was ridiculous. That's where,
last year he was an easy fade. Easy
Yeah,
fade.
fade.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's insane. But we're gonna move on. I want to know who are your late round running back targets. Like if you have any off the top of the dome that you know that people can actually go pick up. You know, some of the running backs that are going later, they're serviceable, but all the guys are gone like in the first 5 rounds. So who's your late round running backs you want to get?
Two guys that I have had my eye on, guys that are kind of going later, like not like last rounds or anything like that, but later on in drafts are Gus Edwards and AJ Dillon. And I actually think they're really similar players, bigger bruising backs, everything like that. But I also think from like an outlook perspective, they're interesting because I think both of them offer the perfect mix of what you want in a later round running back, which is you want them to obviously have a path to incredible upside, right?
Yeah.
Like if the starter gets hurt, if or if Aaron Jones or J.K. Dobbins goes down, you know that those guys are the next ones up. Lock it in, and they're on good offenses too. As long as Aaron Rodgers is back in Green Bay, the Packers offense is going to be good. And the Ravens offense, from a rushing perspective, is certainly going to be one of the best ecosystems in the NFL. So they check both of those boxes. But unlike some of these other guys, your Tony Pollards or your Alexander Madisons, those guys, sure, they have upside if something happens to Zeke or something happens to, the starter in front of them.
Yeah.
They've got that path to upside. But there's no weekly usability there.
Yeah,
like the Vikings are never going to take carries away from Dalvin Cook and give them to Alexander Madison when Cook is healthy. Yeah. As much as like the fantasy football Twitter space wants to talk about Tony Pollard as like a guy that he should be the starter over Zeke. He's more explosive. The Cowboys are never going to take work from Zeke and give it to Tony Pollard. They've never done it. They're not going to do it now. So they have no weekly, usability. But a guy like AJ Dillon, Jamal Williams, it wasn't much work, but it was at least like 10 plus touches in a week. Even when Aaron Jones was out there, there's room for a second running back in that offense. There's a room for a second running back in the Ravens offense as well. So they're not going to give you like clear cut starter value every single week, but they will give you sort of like what the heck flex. Like you're in a bad spot. Your running back 2 is injured. Maybe you throw Edwards or AJ Dillon there. And then again, they have that some weekly usability there, but most importantly, they have massive upside if there's an injury to Aaron Jones or J.K. Dobbins. Then we're looking at these guys as starters.
Hell yeah. I'm absolutely on the bus with both of those guys. Gus the Bus, AJ Dillon, quad doctor, whatever you want to call him. But he's like one of the guys that I was on last year coming out of college. I really loved AJ Dillon. I mean, they said he couldn't catch passes. I mean, I saw some plays where him catching passes, he's putting his shoulder down and he's going right through you. So I definitely seen some upside there. I was a little early on it, but this year I'm really feeling, having him as my late round. So those two are really, really good. Those were actually on my notes right now. Gus Edwards and AJ Dillon I was going to ask you about.
I don't understand, like the fantasy space seemingly has like just let AJ Dillon fall down the draft board. And I think what it is like, it was the excitement that, Aaron Jones is going to move on. Aaron Jones is going to sign with a new team in free agency.
Yep.
No one expected him really to come back to the Packers. The Packers bring Aaron Jones back, and suddenly it's like, just cram AJ Dillon back down there, like destroy the enthusiasm for AJ Dillon. But I think there's still some meat on the bone there for AJ Dillon to eat every single week. But again, it's really about like, how it goes with these guys like Madison, these guys like Pollard, the pure just backups, no weekly starting potential at all, even if it's limited with Dillon and Edwards. You end up cutting them, the Latavius Murrays. Like, sure, there's an upside path if Alvin Kamara is there, but you're going to want to cut that guy off your bench as soon as possible.
Bench warmer. That's what they call him.
He's
bench warmer. And
because you need during the bye week gauntlet, you can't afford to just have those guys clinging around your roster. So that's the advantage of guys like Dillon and the guys like Edwards who have some path to usability there. They are not just roster cloggers. They're mostly insurance policies, but they have some weekly usability.
I like insurance policies. Those let me sleep better at night. If I get the notification in the morning, this guy's out. You know what? I got AJ Dillon or I got Gus Edwards, whatever. Full send it. But so I actually want to transition to, I got this game that I created. So it's called Keep Trade Cut. but it's with movies.
Okay.
So are you a big Adam Sandler fan?
I've seen a lot of Adam Sandler movies, not every single one of them, but I've seen plenty.
Oh, all right, that's good. That's good because I'm gonna key in on some of his '90s movies. So I got three
Perfect.
movies for you. Keep, trade, cut. Now it's a little weird when I say keep, trade, cut. Probably thinking, how do you trade movies? But I got Big Daddy, Waterboy, and Happy Gilmore. You have to keep one, trade one, and cut one. But the catch is for trade, you will have to trade Adam Sandler, the actor himself. The character stays the same, the movie stays the same for Ashton Kutcher.
Okay, well in that case, I think that makes the answer pretty easy. I think you keep Waterboy because you can't have Waterboy without Adam Sandler. We actually just watched that movie recently. It was on TV when we were back staying with my mom in Virginia. It was just on. I was like, God, this movie's so funny. Like no one else could do that. No, it had to be Adam Sandler. So he has to be the keep there. I'm gonna cut. Oh man.
Yeah,
I'm gonna cut.
Crazy.
It's tough here because I love Happy Gilmore.
I
think it's a great movie, right? But I think I'm gonna have to cut that one. And for trade, I think you could still do Big Daddy with like Adam Sandler being Ashton Kutcher. Because he couldn't do Happy Gilmore. That would not be funny and it would be weird. Yeah. So I think the only one that Ashton Kutcher could replace Adam Sandler in is Big Daddy.
Yeah, I agree. That when I wrote it down, I did my own where it lines up with yours to where like Ashton Kutcher will have to play Big Daddy. I mean, I can't see him as the water boy. Happy Gilmore is a classic to me. I can't see him going in there, being aggressive and like I can't see it. Ashton Kutcher, he's not a bad actor. This is when it's not made.
No.
It's not to say he's a bad actor.
Exactly.
Even though I think The Butterfly Effect is the only movie I think is actually good. But hey, it's what it is. It's really funny because when I made this game, I did it with Max the Animal from Big Dogs Gotta Eat. I did, Robert De Niro, and then I traded his actor with Ben Affleck. So you already know Goodfellas, all the crime movies that he was in. Like it's kind of hard to trade him out, but
yeah. Ben Affleck's like trying to do that darker thing lately, like being a more darker character. I just don't know that it works.
No, it doesn't work. Not at all. But Matt, I got to thank you, man. I definitely am grateful for this opportunity you gave me, man. I can't, stress enough the hard work you put in on reception. It's just, man, it's really good for the fantasy community, for fans, even as, a guy as a content creator, to use some of the stuff you have as tools to make my knowledge more better, to deliver the fantasy knowledge. So I definitely want to thank you and James over there. You guys are killing it.
I appreciate you, LQ. You're the man. Thank you so much for having me. Anytime I can hang out with somebody who's rocking a great shirt like that, I am always happy to do it and talk a little ball. I appreciate it, man. This was awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming through, and thank you guys for watching.